Hi, welcome to another Rabbit Hole Part 2.0. Today's topic is going to be a really touchy one. Even for me, it's going to be a touchy one. And I expect letters and comments and things from people, but it has to be put out there. It has to be put out there. When the U.S. women lost their World Soccer berth, a lot of Republicans and right wingers and ultra conservatives came after them in droves. Thank God they lost. We're tired of their attitudes. We're tired of them being political. Yada, yada, yada. Here's the problem with that statement. One, they specifically attacked Megan Rapinoe, one of the veterans who, I believe this was her last go-round, and she was going to retire. They attacked her, one, because she's gay, and two, because she didn't behave the way they felt a woman should behave. Now, I understand that most extreme right-wingers and really ultra-conservative GOP would like us to go back to the way we used to be in the 1940s, 1950s, where women know their place, black people and other minorities know their place, and their place is not to question, and the world was all right and good with everything. Sorry, this is 2023. The world is different, and the ones who are trying to bring it back to the way it was are being left behind on the Meet You in the Future bus. If a person feels, especially an adult, feels that in their heart of hearts and their emotion of emotions that they are a female trapped in a male body or a male trapped in a female body, and they want to go the other way to see what it's like. If you've got the money or the insurance or both, and you really want to, I don't see anything wrong with it. Because in the end product, your person or entity that you need to respond to on your final days is going to be the person or entity that you have to explain yourself to. I'm not homophobic, because homophobic means a fear of. The word phobic means a fear, sometimes unreasonable fear of something. Gotta get him that. Thank you, squeakers. It means an unreasonable fear of something. You know, a racist is basically just a colorophobe. They have a fear of other races either hurting them or taking over things to where they can't deal with it because then they'd have to answer to them. That's what they fear. Racists are all based on fear. Afraid of somebody or something, for fear that they're either going to have authority over them or that they're going to change the world in a way that that person can't deal with. When it comes to gays, there's also one other thing that homophobes fear. They're secretly, I believe, afraid that if they get around too many gay people or a gay person becomes their friend, that at some point they're going to be converted to being gay. Which is very silly, and it's not correct. There's no alien ship flying around that is using a beam to convert people from regulars into transgender and gay. None that exist. For whatever reason, whether it be chemical, emotional, bad relationships, fear of things, whatever, people tend to sometimes believe that they'd be better off as a member of the other sex. A lot of times they find out it's just flat not true. One side's just as bad as the other. And there are a few who accept it once they've done it and move on. When it comes to certain jobs, you have to really examine what that job is all about, what it requires, and look at it that way. Unfortunately, when it comes to sports, we lower the standards and dumb things down for women because we don't want them able to compete against men. So we'll let women play football, but they gotta wear skimpy lingerie and they can only play against other women. We'll let women play baseball, but they can't use a hard baseball, they have to use a bigger softball. We'll let women play basketball. We'll even give you a basketball stadium to play in, or gym to play in. We'll let some people come in to see you, but guess what? We're going to pay you 1/5 or less of what a male basketball player in the same position is. It's not even that. They pay you up to 1/5 less than a male NBA player that's riding the board so long that he's got splinters in his butt. They don't pay our female athletes what they're worth to be at the same level as the male athletes. And they wonder, well, women's basketball is just not that popular. It's not that popular because no one wants to spend the money in it that they do in the NBA to promote it, to get people excited about it, and to pay athletes enough money that they're excited about doing it. They still want to treat women's basketball like it's high school or college basketball. Thus, the Brittany Griner situation. Now, I've been of two minds about that. The first mind about that is you really need to talk to people before you go to a foreign country as an American. You need to find out what their rules are, what their rules aren't, what's proper, what's improper. And if you use drugs of any kind, marijuana, hash oil, any type of drug, you need to find out what that country's feeling is about it and what that country's legality is about it. And make sure you know that before you do something as crazy as bringing any type of drug in there. Because I know in the United States, there are certain drugs that we just kind of turn our back on, or we just slap you on the wrist, give you a fine, and say go about your way. Other countries are not so generous. So yes, Brittany Griner was wrong to bring any type of drug substance into Russia. Period. I don't care how she dealt with it in the U.S. I don't care about the fact that the Russian who was paying for those Americans to come and play there had them like a special village where they could get away with almost anything within the confines of that village. The point is, you were coming into a Russian airport and you need to make damn sure you didn't have anything on you that could get you in trouble. So that's the first thing. Having said that, in a number of instances, instead of keeping an American in prison, countries will opt, since they're at the airport, to just turn their happy butt around and send them back and ban them from the country. Unfortunately, Putin is the president of Russia. Putin really badly wants to bring back the USSR. He really wants to get all those countries that broke off from Russia back together and form the USSR and go back to having the KGB, which he was an officer in, and all this stuff. He really badly wants to do that. He wants to be like Lenin and Stalin and have his name in the history books for future Russians about how great a guy he was. He really wants that. And because he really wants that, he is willing to piss off other countries by doing things that he shouldn't. She was an American basketball player who was there at the invitation of the Russians. She brought something illegal into the country. All they had to do was seize the stuff, have her give a statement, have a quick trial, find her guilty, but be willing to release her to U.S. authorities with a ban of hers from Russia, and if for any reason she's there, then she'll be put in prison. They didn't do that because they wanted to test us, and particularly to test Biden, to see what he would do. Secondarily, we had a couple of U.S. Marines that were there in the Russian prison also. The reason I say this when I say Marines is that one of the guys had not been a Marine for over 10 years. He also had dual citizenship in 2 other countries and was doing some pretty questionable things in Russia and around it at the time. And what happened with him basically was he was useful for a while, and once he got to the point where he was no longer useful, they put him in a situation where they could arrest him and throw him in prison. The second guy, also a former Marine, for some reason ended up traveling around and ended up in Russia and marrying a Russian woman, and instantly being accused of being a spy. Who else in U.S. history has gone to Russia and married a Russian woman there? Lee Harvey Oswald. So Russia took those 2 in custody also. While what Brittany Griner did was wrong, she had only been coming there for a few years to play basketball, and for the most part they stayed in the village that was provided for them and didn't go anywhere else unless it was a basketball event. These other 2 Americans who were former Marines, military men who should know better, dealt with Russia, with one of them having gotten 2 other citizenships so he could come in under the cover of one of them. I do not think the U.S. should have fought to get him back. He had 2 other countries that he was citizens of. Those 2 countries could fight amongst themselves on who wanted to rescue him. We should not have been involved, because after he left us, he joined the other countries. Oh, one other thing about our former Marine. He was a former Marine because he was court-martialed out of the Marine Corps for criminal activity. You can look it up. So you have a guy who was in the Marines, did some criminal activity while he was in the Marines that resulted in him being kicked out of the Marines. So then he decides he was tired of our country, goes and spends time in a couple other countries and applies for citizenship, and then ends up going to Russia and looking around, getting a friend there who he didn't realize was KGB, asking questions, and finally getting to the point where he's becoming more of a problem than he was a solution, and at that point, they arrested him. The other guy, I don't know what compelled him to want to go to Russia, marry a Russian woman, and live there and think he could live there, but he did. And he got in with the wrong people. Those 2, sorry, Russia wants to keep you forever. We shouldn't have did that. That's just how the rules should be. Neither of those men should have been rescued. They broke the law. They know they broke the law. They know they were doing questionable things. They didn't even tell their families what they were doing, which is why their families were so upset, because they didn't realize these guys were doing anything wrong. Add to that the black soldier in Korea who was about to get court-martialed and kicked out of the military, who didn't get on the plane, jumped on a bus of the tour group to go to the DMZ, and immediately ran across into North Korea where he was captured. We should not make one effort to bring this guy back, because he made his choice, and that was his choice. So there you go. I probably could do another hour on this, but I think I'll stop at 16 minutes. If you give me some information that you want to hear more, I'll do another one. Oh, and if you like what I'm doing, like and subscribe. If you don't like what I'm doing, let me know. There you go.